we go. Hey, Ryan.
How's it going?
Hello.
Hello,
There we go.
hello.
How are
Eric,
you?
you can boot my note taker. We probably don't need it for this.
Okay.
If you want to. Just don't report it to Zoom.
Uh, remove. There we go.
Well,
One
good.
time in my old startup, I was like waiting for a like prospect to join, and it goes to me like 100 times. His note taker joined. He didn't. I talked shit about him for 20 minutes. I was like, 100.
Oops.
So like, and I was like, you know what? I don't really care. He's ghosted me on times. This is dead anyway. Dead opportunity, but oh well. I'm manning the waiting room, Ryan, so I'll let people in as they come in.
Okay.
Guess we can get this thing on the roll. So, welcome, Matt. Glad you can make it. Today, our guest speaker is Ryan King, and he is the founder of Maximize Partners, a consulting and coaching firm with the focus on helping individual teams and organizing maximizing their potential. So, I'm gonna let Ryan go ahead and go off of that note right there.
Hey, cool. Thanks, Christian. Eric, I know you've taken the assessment. Matt, or do you prefer Matthew? Matthew?
Matt's fine. Yep.
Matt, you or Christian, have you taken the Clifton Strengths assessment by chance in the past? Never?
No.
Okay, cool. Have you ever heard of it?
I don't believe so.
Okay,
What's the name
well,
of it
that's a
again?
good thing. It's the Clifton Strengths Assessment. It used to be called Strengths Finder as well in the past and everything. So let me pull up my presentation. We'll go through. We probably won't take the entire hour today. Oops, I just lost you guys. Let me get ready to share my screen. We'll get going. Okay, can you guys see my screen all right?
Yes.
Awesome, good stuff. Well, thanks for taking the time to be here today and everything. I know it can be kind of crazy as we all have things that we're working on in our businesses and everything. But wanted to take a few minutes here to talk a little bit about unleashing your strengths and what strengths can really do for an organization and for us as individuals as well, whether it's a team that we're working with or as solopreneurs, really the opportunity to understand who we are as individuals, how we operate. You know, we may have a good understanding, but you know, I know for me, one of the biggest things that I do in my business is ensure that I invest in personal development and in myself just as much as I do in the business. And so it's really important to understand who and what we are when we look at our businesses and everything. So a little bit about me. I'm a certified Clifton Strengths coach. We'll talk a little bit about what that means as far as Clifton Strengths. But Clifton Strengths is part of the Gallup Corporation. A lot of people know Gallup from the polls that they do around election time and everything. But really, Gallup is a huge company that deals a lot with research and development as well. And so one of their products that they have is the Clifton Strengths Assessment. And again, we'll talk about that here a little bit more in just a second. Kind of professionally, I've been in both the for-profit and nonprofit world. I've been in financial services. I've been in real estate. I've done customer service. I've done all kinds of different things throughout the years. Most recently, serving as a CEO of a nonprofit and everything. Also, I wouldn't say I'm a serial entrepreneur. I think there's folks that can wear that hat better than I can, but have been an entrepreneur on and off throughout my career as well. Some of those have succeeded, and some of them haven't, right? And so it's what we learn from those challenges and opportunities that make us who we are and really form us for where we're going in the future and everything. Gallup has a thing called Builder Profile 10. It labels me as a disruptor and a conductor. So what does that mean? Disruptor being someone that kind of takes how we do things normally and turn it up on end and figure out how we can do it better. Challenging status quo, challenging the norms to make something better than what it currently is. The other part of that is the conductor aspect. And the conductor aspect is working through individuals to get things accomplished. Is how I'm built. My strengths align with that as well, not just my builder profile. The builder profile of those that are entrepreneurs that are on here, I thought actually Gallup got rid of it, but I was on their website last night and they're still doing it. They're just not putting a lot of time and energy into it. They're putting it more into the strengths profile stuff. But the builder profile is really a kind of a cool little assessment that you can take. There's a book, I don't have it in here. It's called Born to Build, and it really is focused on startups and entrepreneurism. And it's a really cool book and a good assessment that can kind of allow you to figure out kind of who you are and what you are when it comes to the type of business that you are good at building. And so I fortunately am aligned with what I do professionally with what my builder profile is as well. Top 5, which we'll talk about those here in just a few minutes, are arranger, individualization, strategic, maximizer, and futuristic are my top 5. And at the end of the day, a builder of high impact teams and leaders really is what I do professionally. How to take what we're doing right now and make it, from good to great is really the focus of what I do professionally. Work with a lot of folks doing executive coaching on how they can take their organizations to the next level and everything. So I know Eric has taken it. I mentioned before. I don't know. Do we have any other folks join? Eric, I can't quite see if we had any others.
Not yet.
Nope, we're good. Okay,
They're running
no worries.
late, but I'll let them
no
know when they
worries.
come in.
Yeah. So the Clifton Strengths Assessment, we'll kind of go into a little bit here in just a second, but one of the things that I kind of want to do is a quick exercise. So if everyone could get out just a sheet of paper or a Post-it note or something that's handy. Just grab something that you can write on real quick. Maybe it's your remarkable, maybe it's whatever, something something you can write on. And what I want you to do, do we have any left-handers? Left-handers? We do. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to take your pen, pencil, whatever you have there, and I want you to write with your dominant hand, I love my strengths. Just write it out real quick. I love my strengths. I love my strengths with your dominant hand. Okay. I want you to do that another time. I love my strengths, just with your dominant hand, just real quick. Then I want you to take your pen or pencil and put it in your other hand. Now, we may have some folks that are really good at both, but most people are not. I want you to use your other hand. I want you to write that same exact thing. I love my strengths. And then do it again. I love my strengths. Eric is making the facial expression that most people do. Christian's smiling a little bit. Matt's probably like he can probably do the same on with both hands and everything, so he's probably good. Wow, it's taking a little bit longer, huh?
I didn't realize how bad I was at writing with my left hand until you have forced me to write with my left hand.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So, what takeaways from that? What was different writing with our dominant hand versus the hand that we don't use quite as much?
It's not natural.
It's not natural. Yep. Definitely not natural. Matt?
Yeah, slower.
Slower.
Output's not as good. Quality's not as good.
Yeah. Quality's not there. The output's not there. Slower. Eric, any other differences? Those are the main ones.
Yeah, like
you got to show it to us. Can you show it to us in the camera? How much of a difference that we had there?
Bad.
That's one, which is not the best handwriting to start with, and that is literally two. That is bad.
Christian, that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all.
It might look better on camera. It looks like it's like very square.
Well, the whole premise behind this and the strengths movement and the philosophy of strengths is really from a foundation of positive psychology and the focus on what we naturally are gifted and talented with and what we do, our innate abilities, are what we need to focus our energies on, not the things that we're not good at, right? Our weaknesses, or those things, as we'll talk about here in the assessment. I'll try to bring this around so you can see it on the assessment. Those things that are lower in our assessment. Okay. The whole thing behind strengths is investing in the things that you already are good at, because that's what you're naturally gifted and talented at, right? So when you were writing out with your dominant hand, boom, I love my strengths. It was just like that, right? You just real quick, right? It was quick. The output was good. It was quality work. But when we start thinking about the things that we're not as good at and try to take those and bring them up and use them, we're not really gifted with it, right? And so many times in corporate America, and the way that we're trained is, okay, so Eric, what are those things you're sitting down, for instance, at your yearly review, right? This is how it always would go. You're sitting down at your yearly review, and folks would be like, okay, so Eric, what are those things that you need to improve upon this year? What are those things, those weaknesses that you have that we need to make better? Or you're sitting in a job interview and they always talk about, okay, what are your strengths? And they're like, okay, what are your weaknesses, right? The weaknesses are not necessarily things that we want to focus on. We want to manage them. But the weaknesses are not something that we want to spend a lot of time and energy on, because they're the things we're not good at. So why even focus on them? And people are like, oh, but in life, Ryan, you've got to do something with the weaknesses. Yes, there's different things that we can do to manage weaknesses. You know, we can have systems in place. We can work with others, and we'll talk about that with teams and stuff, are some of the things that we can do. But we have to change the way that we're thinking about what we're naturally good at and the things that are maybe our weaknesses, and get away from trying to invest our time and energy and our talent in things that we're not good at. So let's get into this and talk about the power of strengths, you know, as bootstrappers and everything, and how that we can take this and leverage our strengths and the things that we're good at to really magnify and amplify what we're doing in our businesses. So the power of it. Identifying your unique strengths leads to effective decision making. So when you know what you're good at, it helps you align with how you make your decisions. And we'll get into more detail about this. Strengths enable personalized leadership and team management. When we know what we're good at, and we have a vocabulary that goes to it, that's the thing that is really important, is that common vocabulary that we all can share. Because there's things that we all can sit here and say, yeah, I'm good at this, I'm good at that, and everything. What Clifton Strengths does, and the assessment does, is it gives us all a common language, a common sheet of music that we all can go from, right? And so that we all have a common vocabulary that we're like, oh, that's this, that's that. And so strengths enables us, when we know what those strengths are. We'll talk about mine here in a second and how I leverage mine in a leadership role or a team management role. But by knowing what our strengths are, it really enables us to lead better and to manage processes better as well. And utilizing strengths enhance problem solving and innovation. Now, how is that? You know, when you look at our world of bootstrappers and everything, the ability to solve problems and be innovative is priceless. And so we've got to figure out how we can do that. What are the things that we have that are our natural talents that will get us to where that would be? Some people, it may be ideation and coming up with ideas on how to do that. For some people, it could be a maximizer. And how do you take something from good to great? How do you get something and work on it so that you can continue to raise the bar? But when we leverage our strengths, we're not just problem solving. We're redefining the solutions. We're looking at how bringing a fresh perspective to things that are rooted in our unique talents that we have. Okay. So as we move forward, it's more than just traits. It's these talents and how we can leverage those in our world that we are. Let's talk a little bit about the assessment. This is a picture of my Clifton Strengths. If you'll see on the picture there, what looks like a a DNA sample, right? Oh, got to do the hearts now. It thinks I'm doing hearts. It's too smart sometimes. But we have this DNA in the middle of the page there, right? That DNA is the makeup of what our 34 themes are all about. We'll talk about the 34 themes in a second. But what happens is the Clifton Strengths Assessment. It's about a 45-minute questionnaire that you basically rate things from strongly agree, almost, it's kind of a strongly agree to a strongly disagree kind of concept. And you go through this, and by doing that and answering these questions that it has, is it gives you an output of what you see on the screen. And on the screen, it'll show you who I am as an individual. The top 10 is really who I am as a person. We focus a lot on the top 5. Top 5 is definitely something that we see people using every single day, but really a 1 through 10 is a full makeup of who an individual is. So when you see that and it says arranger and individualization and strategic and maximizer and futuristic and responsibility and empathy and achiever and competition and activator, it's like, okay, what's that mean? You could probably get a little bit of what some of that means. We'll go into a little bit of detail here in just a second, so you have a little bit of understanding of what these mean. But those 10 things are who I am. Now, I mentioned a minute ago, we shouldn't worry about the things at the bottom. So if you look at the bottom of mine, consistency, intellection, and harmony. Anyone that knows me knows that I am not consistent whatsoever. I am constantly looking through a lens of how can I make a process or a team better than what it currently is. And so consistency in doing the same thing or doing something the same way time after time after time after time is not good for me. I am not talented with that. That's why there's SOPs, and I have other folks that can do those things that are kind of that monotonous time after time after time thing, right? So while that could be something lower for me, I put people around me that maybe have higher consistency than I do to help balance me out as an individual. Intellection, that constant process and stuff. So does it mean I don't think about things or process things? No. It means that, I may go ask Eric, so tell me your thoughts on this. I sent him a text, I think it was last week, getting his thoughts on something. And I did that to like 5 people, right? And so it doesn't mean that I'm not going to sit and process and think and go through stuff. It means I'm going to ask other people. And then I'm going to look for the common thread and the pattern of what those folks are saying and make my decision based upon that. So it doesn't mean that I'm not going to be processing and thinking. It just means I'm going to have the same outcome as someone with high intellection, but I'm going to do it in a different way. And my motivations are different. So I can still get the same outcome. And then Harmony 34. That is about the, keeping the peace. It's about the status quo at times. It's keeping that, it's harmony, right? It's not necessarily the kumbaya, but it's the, hey, let's look at what brings us all together. As a disruptor, that is not me at all. And so if I tried to do that, that would be something completely opposite of who I am as an individual. And so it's important for us to realize who we are so that we don't focus on the wrong things. Because if I focused on constantly looking at what's the commonality of this group versus my individualization, which is my number 2, which looks for the unique qualities of folks that then bring a team together. Again, similar outcomes, but different motivations to get there. Okay. So this is the assessment. This report is an amazing report. It's 20, almost 30 pages long when you do this. Highly recommend. I'll give you some more information at the end for this. The assessments are not that expensive. I think this one right now is like 60 or 70 bucks. I've got a code that I can give you. I get nothing from these, just so you know, just complete transparency and everything. But as a certified coach, they give us some codes that we can pass along to folks, and I'll be happy to pass that along. I'll give you information on how you can get that code and everything. But highly recommend taking the assessment. It takes about 45 minutes. It's really based on that positive psychology and knowing what we are naturally talented and gifted at, okay, is what it does. And it gives us that reflection of who we are, and probably one of the best mirrors that we can look into. When I took mine and I was starting to read this, because what happens is like my arranger, my individualization, they don't give you just the generic definition. My definition for arranger is based upon how all the other themes fall in the order that they fall into. Remember, I mentioned that Gallup was a research organization. They're very big on statistics and everything. And so what happens is when they bring these 34 themes together and they land in the order in which my land in, for instance, my arranger will be different than someone else's arranger because no one will have the 34 themes in the same exact order that mine are. There'll be some common things like, an arranger is a conductor and everything, but mine is very specific to me and how my individualization lands right next to it. So I'm really good at figuring out what are the seats on the bus that we need as an organization and who are the people that need to go in the seats on those bus. And moving those pieces of the puzzle around, the people, to get the most efficient and productive outcome possible. And I, while I knew I was good at some of that stuff, when I learned more about and put some vocabulary to that, and then started looking at, okay, how can I put gasoline on these things, these top 10? That's where I, as a leader, really began to take off, and my organizations that I was part of, because I was starting to focus on the things that I was naturally good at, right? And make those things better. Okay, let's talk about the themes just real quick. Here are the 34 themes. They're divided into what we call 4 domains. Executing would be the first. Executing domain. These themes are all about making things happen. They're executing, they're getting things done. If you excel here, you're good, or I would say even great, at implementing plans and following through. You're gonna get stuff done if you're leading with executing, right? Influencing is the next one. Strengths in this domain allow individuals to impact others. They drive change and reach out beyond, their circle of friends and influence. Influencing is the theme that I lead with the most, followed by executing, I think a little bit behind that. Yes. And then relationship and strategic thinking. Relationship building is the next domain. And so all of these themes have a commonality. And with that is that relationship side. It's about, this is about those who have the ability to create strong relationships, that hold a team or group of individuals together, and make them greater than the sum of the parts, right? It's all about that team atmosphere, that group. And strategic thinking is the last of the 4 domains. And the strengths here involve thinking about what could be. They're processing things. They're absorbing information. They're analyzing stuff to make decisions. Okay. These could be the folks that, someone that maybe is high in analytical, they love spreadsheets. Or someone that's high in futuristic. I'm guilty of this. I don't have adaptability high and I have futuristic high. So that makes me a person that lives in the future. I live in the what ifs. I live in the what could be, right? Not the necessarily the here and the now. This can be bad for me as an entrepreneur because I see the finished product. I see that coaching program that I'm getting ready to launch next week and the people in it and everything. But it's like, oh crap, I got to figure out all this stuff to get there to that, right? And it's like, well, this is easy. I can see it. Like literally people with high futuristic can see into the future and they see what's going on all around them. Okay. They almost teleport themselves into the future and they see it. Like I can see coaching that group of folks already, right? I see that. It's like, crap, I got to do all this stuff to get there to launch that new program, right? So someone with high focus like an Eric, I envy at times because I don't have that. Because I'm going to keep on moving those pieces of the puzzle around, right? To get the best outcome. And I see where I need to go. But that consistency and that grind every single day is a lot harder for me. Doesn't mean I don't get a lot done, because I do, because I have achiever high and stuff like that. But it's all those monotonous processes that we got to do along the way. That's where I try to get others to help me along that process and stuff. It's very important. So let's talk about me a little bit, and how you can see how strengths really can help us as individuals. This is my top 5 up on the screen. So a arranger, individualization, strategic, maximizer, and futuristic. I talked a little bit about futuristic. I won't continue to harp on that. My number 1 is arranger. So I'm one of those that these are the folks that keep all the plates spinning. You're over here, you're spinning this one. You're over here doing this one, and then you're going over here, then here, then here. It's like, oh, well, I all of a sudden 2 years into my business, I've got 3 products, and it's like, crap. What do I need to do to make sure all these are going in the right direction? And are they all part of my funnel to get folks through this process and everything? But it's about going and spinning all these plates and keeping these plates going. It's being involved in stuff outside of work and all the other things that I'm involved with. It's all those different things. And one thing that I'm finding, as I get older and stuff, I used to be able to keep it all right here. I was really good at that. But now I've got to have a system to kind of do the brain dump and put it all there. And then on a daily basis, I arrange my schedule on a daily basis. I go through and what are the priorities for the day? What are my top 3? Boom, boom, boom. Got to make sure I get those done. It's that process of arranging people and things on a constant basis. Individualization. Folks that are high in individualization are really good at giving gifts, because many times they know someone else better than that person knows themselves, because they get the chance to learn about what they love strengths. So it's probably one of the reasons why strengths is a passion of mine, is because they find and learn what are those unique qualities in individuals, and then really good at, okay, so where's this person need to go in the grand scheme of things to make the most efficient and effective team possible. Strategic, I mentioned that a minute ago. While I have 2 strategic thinking themes in my top 5, strategic thinking domain is the last domain for me, because those are my 2, and then it's like all the other ones are at the end. So strategic, people are like, oh, well, you're strategic. Well, yeah, what's that mean though? Gallup's version of strategic is you see you see patterns in things, right? So a lot of times it's very hard for some people may say it's the gut or intuition when it's strategic seeing it. I may say something like, yeah, we need to do this or we need to do that. And they're like, well, but why? I can't tell you because my brain has taken all this stuff in, and my strategic sees those patterns to move things forward is what ends up happening. It's also having multiple options. Whenever I go into something, there's always plan A, plan B, sometimes C as well. But strategic is looking at those different things to overcome the obstacles that you have. Maximizer is both a external influencing theme because of the way that an individual can influence the folks around them, but it's very much an internal theme for me as well. And so it's a theme that drives me constantly in having a level of excellence. It's having that level of constantly striving to make something better, leaving something better than I found it. In my Boy Scout days, it was, you go to a campsite, right? And you want to leave a campsite better than what you found it. It's that same kind of principle. You want to leave something better than what you found it as. And of course, futuristic, I talked about that a little bit as well. So those are my strengths. And I wanted to bring those up just so that you can understand, like, how does that work? And if you look at it, it's like, how do those strengths help me as an entrepreneur? Well, arranger helps me put all the pieces of the puzzle together. It allows me to arrange things and constantly look at, okay, we need to move this piece over here and this piece over here to come up with the most efficient and effective process. It allows me to get a lot of things done and juggle a lot of things. Individualization really allows me to figure out the qualities that someone has and where I can put them on the team. Strategic is okay, what are our different options for this? Maximizer is constantly, hey, what's the bar here? What's the level that if we're going to produce something, we're not going to put it out there until it's top notch. Doesn't have to be perfect. I learned that a long time ago. Things can't be perfect, right? But maximizers can be, if they're not careful, can always be striving for perfection. and I wouldn't consider myself a perfectionist much anymore, but there's definitely a bar that you shoot for. And then futuristic is where are we going, right? What I mentioned earlier, it's like, okay, here's what that coaching program looks like. Now I gotta backtrack and look at, okay, so what are all the different things I want to accomplish in that? What are the modules look like? What do the lessons look like in those modules and stuff? And then start filling in the pieces of the puzzle. Okay, let's talk about Eric. Eric, you might as well take yourself off mute here in just a second because we're going to chat about you a little bit. I've had the opportunity.
Strengths should be a much shorter list there, Ryan.
Yeah, right? No. I've had the opportunity to know Eric for a little while now, and we had him take the assessment, and these what you see on the screen would be Eric's top 5. And so strategic, restorative, futuristic, significance, and focus. Eric, I'm going to go through these just a little bit. And as I'm going through these, you might be thinking about how you see these things helping you on a daily basis, right? And how they've helped you in your career, how they're helping you with Thrive, and everything. So strategic is, like I said, planning ahead, seeing the patterns. Restorative is a problem solver. Restorative is a lot different than a maximizer. Restorative likes to create something from scratch at times or bring something back to life many times. Maximizers don't. Maximizers want to come in after a restorative person has already done their thing, and a maximizer wants to then make it even better or influence it along the way. But they don't like the process of building something completely from scratch. A restorative person can build a template. A maximizer wants to take that template and take something from there. Futuristic, the vision, inspiring, significance, wanting to make that impact on others. And then lastly, focus. Again, this is something I mentioned before. It's something that I envy because I don't have it at all. It's lower for me, but that ability to stay focused on what needs to get done and what needs to happen. So, Eric, after you took the assessment and everything, it's been a little while, year or two, hasn't it, since you've taken it?
Like a year and a half, I think.
Yeah, year and a half. Yeah. What was your takeaway at first when you received like this top 5? What'd you get from that?
I agree with it. I had the only thing like similar to this that I had done is those you can take those I don't know what you call it, like quizzes where it's like what kind of career should you go into based on like I took a lot of those in high school, but usually those come back and I like disagree with half of it, or it didn't. I don't know how they came to those conclusions based on like some of the information I gave them, so I really agreed with this. It's like helpful to reinforce what you're good at, and it is good to reaffirm like what I know to be a weakness of mine, which is executing, it's operating and maximizing. So
Yeah, absolutely. How do you think it's helped you with Thrive and getting Thrive going and launching Thrive?
It helped me. I would say the biggest thing, it helped me like know who to put on my team. Like good advice I got, I felt like a year and a half ago is like, particularly in a startup, like you have a limited amount of money, you have a limited amount of people who can help you. Like if you're really good at being visionary, like first thing I could do is like put another visionary on my team. Like we won't get anything done. No, we'll just talk about like what the business could.
What's it going to be, right?
Right. I need hey, Christian's good at this. Like Michael kept on my team, like good at this. Like somebody who can say, Eric, that's a great idea. Like remember this thing you said you had to get done today? It's like, yeah, I do. Okay. So it's really helped me know who to like put in my corner, I would say.
Yeah, no, it helps tremendously. Like, one of my first hires was an operations type person, right? That all those little processes that need to happen, I mentioned before, it was not something that I was good at. And so I have someone that helps with that. So, we call that the power of 2. When you can partner with someone that balances you out to do that, or you have a system that can help you as well, right? But being able to find those partners, and sometimes it's not as an employee, right? Or someone that works with you. It could be your board of advisors, so to speak, right? That help balance you out, and whatnot. And we'll talk about teams here in just a second. So Christian, do you see this? You work with Eric now on a daily basis. Do you see these things pop out in him?
Absolutely. I mean, the amount of times that I ask for him to send me something is outrageous. He always has great ideas, but him actually following through.
Poor
Uh,
Eric.
on blast right now.
But he does have
Christian,
focus very high. What were you gonna say,
works,
Eric?
he works a lot. Sometimes he just gets over his head.
I was gonna say Christian's just happy we already ran payroll this week. So
Yeah.
He can say all he wants now at this point.
Yep.
No, that it is. And so, it's important then for us to know who we are, but more importantly, how do we use that in developing a team, right? That's Eric and I didn't even like set this up, but it's that transition and then into teams, right? And again, people are like, well, but I'm a solopreneur, I'm this or I'm that. It doesn't mean that you have to have an entire team of folks working for you full time, right? It could be if you don't have a lot of high executing or that high consistency, it's maybe hiring somebody part time. It could be 5-10 hours a week of doing something that helps take those things off your plate that you are not good at. It could be going onto onlinejobs.ph, and hiring someone from the Philippines to work with you on different things. It all depends. There's opportunities out there that as you're building your team, it doesn't have to be the traditional sense of a team, right? It doesn't have to be this full, got to bring on someone full time, 40 hours a week, or this or that, or whatever it is, capital and different things like that. That's out there. And so many of us as bootstrappers and stuff, we're funding these ourselves and we're not getting that outside funding and everything. And so we've got to look at ways, we got to maximize what we have to make things happen. Okay. And
that
so
was,
go
I'll
ahead,
say
Eric.
that was like game changing for me. I was spending like 18 hours a week on like our like accounting and like bookkeeping and all that because I'm like so goddamn bad at that stuff. Like it is such a weakness of mine. And like started paying somebody just like 3.5 hours a week to do it, but it's like it is well worth
Totally
like
worth it.
for me it was just like a time sink because I'm like trying to learn something I know I will never get better at.
I this is horrible of me to say. Um, I would when my first year of business, I knew in my head where I was at, but I wasn't doing what I needed to do. Like I was waiting till the end of the year to do my taxes and all this other stuff and everything. Now I changed that this past year. To your point, I hired someone to do all that the data entry stuff for me. I don't have a ton on my coaching side, but I had a ton on my real estate side of things that I do. When every transaction you have going to Lowe's or this or that, when you're doing repairs and remodeling and different things like that as well, like that adds up. And so one of the best things I did was hire someone, same thing, to do some of those tasks. And because it like you said, it just consumes you so much. And it goes back to the weaknesses, those things that are maybe lower on your 34 report, the things that you don't enjoy. Like when you try to pull those things up, it is horrible. It takes you forever. A good way of knowing that you're working in your strengths is when you're in the zone, right? When you are sitting down to do something and all of a sudden, it's the end of the day and it's like, whoa, what just happened? The day just flew by. Typically, that's a good sign that you're working in your strengths. We have this obsession, it seems like in corporate America and other places, of let's make we've got to be these well-rounded people. I would push back on that and I would challenge that concept. I would say people are stars and they're pointed, right? We're all pointed. We all have different things that we are naturally gifted and talented at. A team can be well-rounded. So a team, just like you see on the screen, can be a circle, right? And be well-rounded. But we as individuals are more of a star because we should sharpen that point of our strengths to make them even better than what they are currently. We need to invest that time and energy in those things to make those talents that we have our strengths. So, building high performing teams. It's identifying the strengths of it. We've talked a lot about this, of putting those pieces of the puzzle together, those people around us. And those could be people that we talk to. They could be people that, an intern, they could be a part-timer, they could be someone overseas. There's all kinds of things that could be that team, right? It doesn't mean that, how am I going to hire all these people and get them full time? And that's the only way I can have a team. That's not necessarily the case. It could be, a partner that you have of some sort that you're, run ideas by, or someone you're talking with. There's all kind of opportunities there for us. Create balanced teams that with complementary strengths. So this goes back to that power of two, or putting the pieces of the puzzle together of how we can balance each other out and everything, of how we all bring these collective strengths to the table to balance each other out, and foster an environment where strengths are recognized and utilized. And this goes back to what I was talking about earlier, sitting down and doing a yearly review. So many times it's like, okay, so what's wrong with you? What are your weaknesses? What are we going to focus on for this next year? When in reality, we need to be like, okay, so what are your strengths and how are we going to make those even better? And so it's recognizing and utilizing what people are naturally gifted and talented at, right? If you wanted to have someone do your books, right? If you have someone that's going to do your books, Eric, you probably wouldn't go hire someone that is maybe their line of work is marketing and public speaking. If you wanted an attorney, you wouldn't go hire a painter, right? Same premise here is ensure that you go after the folks and their strengths and what they're good at, and not necessarily just try to put someone into a box and everything. So just a couple quick things here, and how we can unlock potential in our businesses by utilizing Clifton Strengths. I mentioned before that the Clifton Strengths assessment is like a mirror. And, I'd say it's probably one of the best mirrors you're ever going to look into, because it reveals who you are. I remember when I took the assessment for the first time, and I was looking and reading these things, and I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is me. Like this is telling me exactly who I am as an individual. I had never taken an assessment. Eric mentioned this about different assessments you can take, DISC and Enneagrams and different things like that you can take that are out there. I had never seen something that had pegged me so well of who I was as an individual. And so how do we take that and what we're good at, invest more time into it, so that those talents that we have are what's going to shoot us through and make us even better as leaders and owners of businesses and stuff. Like I mentioned before, forget the whole spiel about well-rounded. The only thing that's well-rounded is a team, not people. Individuals being well-rounded is an old school and overrated way of looking at things. It's about your team. It's about your squad. It's about those folks, your tribe, right? And, one of the great things about Thrive is building this community. So if you don't have that team right now, boom, you got a team right there, right? With Thrive. Now, folks that can help you in getting where you want to be. We've got to change that concept of what our teams look like as well, and focus on what's right with people. What happens when we stop obsessing over our shortcomings and the things that we are not good at, and start celebrating what makes us downright awesome, is how I'd put it. That's what we got to look at. How do we shift that, what we've been trained and processed to do, to get away from that and start celebrating what we are great at? If we do that, everything changes. Everything in our business will change, because what we do is we ignite this spark that fuels a fire around with everyone around us. And because then we can be our authentic self and focus on who we are and what we're good at. And it creates this environment where everyone gets amped up, because it's like, wow, I can be who I am. I can actually focus on the things I'm good at. So when we champion this and we champion strengths, it really can transform our businesses and go from something ordinary to something legendary, is how I'd put it. So as we look at this, identify your unique strengths, and as you're going through and making decisions. Strengths enables personalized leadership and team development, and utilizing strengths enhances our problem solving and innovation. I want to open up to if there's any questions and stuff. Feel free to email me. This is my email address on the screen. Reason I put that up there is I can get you that code. I think depending on the assessment, it goes from either $10 off or $15 off, is what you would get by the code that I can give you. You can take the top 5 report. There's a brand new report that just came out for your top 5. Or you can get the 34. I would recommend doing the 34. You can always take, or you can always get the top 5. You'll take the assessment. And then if you want to, you can upgrade to the 34 report afterwards. It doesn't make you you don't have to take the assessment again. You already have, it already has your 34 lined up. It just gives you your top 5 if you do the top 5 report. You can unlock your 34 report. There's also a couple other reports that are based upon that assessment. There's a Clifton Strengths for leaders. There's a Clifton Strengths for managers. Big difference between that is the people side on leaders versus process side on managers. And then there's also a report on Clifton Strengths for sales. Again, it uses your same results, but it starts talking about how you can leverage your strengths in a sales environment, in the leadership environment, or a manager environment as well. Those are really good. I think you can use the code for that. I think it'll give you the same amount off. I'm not positive. I know it will for the top 5 report and also for the 34 report. So with that, I will stop sharing and see if there's any questions. And I'm going to put my email in chat, making sure it's all right.
So your recommendation, Ryan, which I haven't actually heard somebody else like say it this way, but I think like it's cool, would be to like make people's strengths like even stronger than they already are, rather than take a weakness and try to like develop that.
Yeah, because when you focus on the things that you're naturally good at and invest more time and energy in that, those are the things that you're naturally gifted at anyway. So when you make them even better, it's like your superpower then. Mm-hmm. Right. And so if we were to say, and we'll use a process versus a strength here. But if we were to say, okay, Eric, so you've got to become a bookkeeper, is what I want you to do now. You'd be like, no, that's not going to work for me, right? Or if there's things that you're not naturally gifted at, well, for instance, if you were to say, well, Ryan, I want you to be more consistent in the way that you do things, I'd be like, this isn't the place for me. Like naturally, a lot of folks, there's coaches out there, certified coaches with Gallup, that all they do, there's 2 real areas that people focus on, things that I do. Some people will focus on relationships, because this tool is really good at the foundation about communication. Is really what this tool allows you to do, is it gives you the common language, especially between 2 people, to be able to say, oh, yeah, that's Eric's significance popping its head up, or, oh, that's his, strategic, or this or that, or, oh, Ryan's arranging stuff again. So the whole premise is, when you focus on those things, it doesn't mean, when you invest time in these talents that we have, these 34 themes, it doesn't necessarily mean you use them more, but you invest in them and move them from raw to strengths is what ends up happening. Because for instance, let's say I'm a really good arranger, but if I am not careful, I can bring chaos to something, because my need to wanting to rearrange stuff and put things in different places, right? And so if I don't invest the time and energy to know, okay, we're good, I don't need to come in and create chaos, or oh, the maximizer in me likes to polish the pearl, make it better and better and better and better. If I don't invest the time and energy in knowing, okay, this is good enough, we're good, this can go out the door, as opposed to holding things up and trying to be a perfectionist.
Cool.
But yeah,
I really like that.
manage weaknesses, develop your strengths.
I know a company from St. Louis who will every hire they make, when they get a candidate into like the final 2 or 3 people they want to hire, they make them take the Clifton assessment for however much money it is, because he's like, it is cheaper to have them take this than hire the wrong person. Like, it's so expensive to hire the wrong person.
Yeah. Clifton Strengths does not recommend using it for an employment tool. It's more of a development tool.
Got it.
And here's the reason why. Because you may hire someone based upon what you think are their strengths. Maybe they're in the raw and every single one of those strengths. And you just hired an arranger that's going to come in and do nothing but create chaos around you, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. People do it. They do. They just, you got to be careful in doing it.
That makes sense.
It's really good for folks that you already have on your team. And how do you improve them and make them better?
Yeah,
But,
I thought it was very helpful when you had our whole team do it like a year and a half ago, because it told me the guy, like, we had a guy on our team who is like very charismatic, could speak well. So naturally I was like, he'd be good at sales. In reality, he's good at relationship building, not like selling per se. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it always kind of depends on how that's focused for them and everything. So, well, cool. Any other questions? I appreciate everyone's time today. But feel free to shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to send the code to you so that we can get you. Again, full disclosure, I get nothing from those. It's just something that Gallup gives to us as coaches that we can share for folks to be able to get some discounts and everything off of the assessments and everything. They just redid the top 5. I would say the top 5 is pretty darn good now, but really the 34 is where you want to be if you want to get a good idea of who you are as an individual. And then, Eric mentioned that it's really good. It really becomes a great tool when you start utilizing it for a team, because then you can figure out how you can leverage those strengths to move in the same direction. So cool. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks so much, Ryan.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks so much.
Awesome.
Okay.
See you guys.
Have a good
Yeah.
one. Bye-bye.